And indeed, as Daniel said, in these coming days, the government is expected to ease restrictions at the airport to ensure that every Israeli citizen who wants to return in time to vote in the March 23rd election is able to do so. But even that step won't ease the difficulties and hardships of those Israelis who, for pressing personal reasons, want to travel abroad but are being denied permission to do so. Well, one of them joins us now, Canadian-Israeli Dr. David Cohen. And David, thank you for joining us. Let me ask you to talk a little about your personal story.
Okay. My mother in Montreal in Canada was ill. We found that out in mid-December. We had it all confirmed by around mid-January. And we knew that the news was very bad. She had lymphoma. It was everywhere. And the oncologist said there's not a lot of time. They thought 6 months. It was nowhere near 6 months. Yeah, that's my mom. I bought a ticket with Air Canada through Frankfurt. I applied to the Canadians to see if I could skip any of the quarantine. And they immediately replied, literally within half an hour, back to me and said, yes, we're giving you a special compassionate exemption from the quarantine. And they allowed me to go visit her as long as I could arrive in Israel. Unfortunately, a day or two after I bought my ticket, Israel closed Ben Gurion Airport. And then I realized I'm in trouble. I applied to the Israelis, which I thought would just be a formality, to get the same compassionate exemption to be able to leave Israel, because I had heard that exists. I applied on the 28th of January. They replied with this very awful one-line red ink letter to me that said in Hebrew that my reason was not good enough for wanting to leave. Didn't have a good enough personal reason to leave. I was shocked. We scrambled around. Unfortunately, my mother started to really pass away in those last few days. I reapplied, which is what I was told to do by somebody, and I got an authorization to actually fly, which arrived on February 3rd. Unfortunately, my mother died on February 2nd and was buried promptly on February 4th.
Right.
So I did not fly. There was no point in flying. And I remained here. I spoke with my sister. It's me and my sister. We're the two siblings. And we decided it's pointless to fly right now. I hope things will open up, and by summer I can actually go and lay a headstone, at least in Montreal. That's my story.
David, when you scrambled around, as you say, did you get any reason why that's not good enough, having a relative on the an immediate family relative on the point of death? And I also thought there was something where you could say that you agree not to come back within 60 days, and that with the condition you would leave. None of that helped there?
First of all, I didn't speak to anybody because literally we got the response on the 31st of January. My mother started to fade from consciousness, and my sister and I were really scrambling and in a bit of a frenzy. And the last thing on my mind was to try and talk to anybody from the authorities. I sort of accepted that this was their terrible response. I wasn't really aware at the time of what was going on in Ben Gurion, that there were in fact people coming in droves back and forth. With fake documentation and stuff. I only learned that much later. So that's the situation. I also wasn't in a situation where I could leave for 60 days. I'm a veterinarian. I have a small clinic. I need to run it. I need to be here 6 days a week. And in fact, I did the COVID vaccinations mostly so that I would be able to not have to quarantine myself upon coming back to Israel, so that I could go straight back to work, because it's an issue for people like me to actually leave work for an extended period of time.
All right. Well, we know the policy is under review and has been, of course, even been subject now to some legal challenges. And hopefully stories like yours will have at least moved the needle a little bit so that this situation with the Exemptions Committee will be corrected in some degree. Dr. David Cohn joining us from here in Jaffa. We share in your grief. May the memory of your mother be a blessing. Thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
Thanks very much.